I'm Nana Mayira, the Executive Director for Kolandef. Kolandef is Community Land and Development Foundation. It's an organization that is dedicated to strengthening land tenure security, especially for customary landholders, and also improving natural resource governance. We also work on gender and policy research and policy advocacy. So our business within the oil and gas sector is to ensure that there is adequate public consultation and public awareness on the issues relating to oil and gas to inform policy discussions. So creating the linkage between what happens at the local level to the discussions at the policy level so that policy becomes relevant to action at the local level. That is what we've been doing so far. As far as this program today is concerned, I think it has been very encouraging, very, very informative, because we have people who are, local people, I would say, who are not directly engaged in the oil and gas sector, and yet have been able to use the information generated through this discussion to come up with critical recommendations that can be some information that will be used for policy discussions. So I think from what we saw today is an indication that we should not stop the public engagements, we should not stop the public consultations, we should deepen it even, so that whatever we are able to gather from these public consultations represents the interests of the people who are supposed to benefit from oil and gas activities, so that they really have their interests reflected in what we do. Because we noticed that early in the oil, activities, especially between 2008 up to 2010, when the euphoria about oil and gas was on, and the various governance framework documents were being prepared, there were a lot of public discussions, both on radio and then in face-to-face conferences and things like that. And all those discussions were to seek the inputs of the public in the various framework documents that were being prepared at the time. I must say that we made some significant strides, especially, for example, in the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, where we now have the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, which was just one of the recommendations we made. There were many others. These were reflected in what we now have as a Petroleum Revenue Management Act. So it demonstrates that if we continue to engage, if we continue to consult, it yields results. It helps in bringing together the public's interests in whatever policy or legislation that comes. And that way, it will help to really make the oil, the benefit from oil, relevant to the local people. So I think we need to sustain what we have done. So from here, I am very hopeful that the organizers of the funders, will not let it remain here to become just one of those discussions, but to be taken further, consolidating the views and proposals into very good, policy documents, suggestions that would be used to engage policy actors.
Fantastic. You've addressed all the questions I have. Thank you.
My name is Dorcas Ansah. I'm the Accountability and Advocacy Workstream Lead for the GOGIC program, Ghana Oil and Gas for Inclusive Growth program.
Fantastic. Your general impressions about the session?
I think that it was quite an educative and insightful session. I particularly liked the questions from the ordinary citizens. You'll be amazed at the depth of the quality, the questions that the citizens and market traders were asking. I know you could see that the concentration of the questions were around the impact of the revenue on Ghana and in our economy, and particularly in their own lives. And you could sense from the questioning how they were frustrated about they not seeing the impact. We all agree it's just 5 years, but I think that the citizenry are getting impatient in not seeing the benefits of the oil revenue.
But what informed this session?
Okay, Ghana Oil and Gas Program, it's a governance program. We are interested in enhancing the efficient management of the oil and gas sector. And so, to mark the 5 years of oil production, we noticed that the enthusiasm, the engagement around citizenry and even the middle class, when oil and gas production started, had gone down. People were disengaging around the oil issues. You ask people about if they are aware of the revenue, if they are aware of the project, and they go like, no. And so we thought that it was a very good opportunity, if we are marking 5 years, to re-engage the citizenry, to rekindle that interest, because it is about the economy of Ghana. And so we are organizing a series of pre-summit activities leading to the African Oil and Gas Summit, which will be on the 23rd and 24th of this month, which is Monday and Tuesday. And so all the activities we are doing from now till Monday are just rekindling the interest of the ordinary citizens, getting their input into the African Summit, so that at the end of the day, the policy initiatives that are derived from the summit will be a combination of everybody's input in the summit. Yeah.
Final one. A lot of people came here. They've left their jobs. They've left the marketplaces to come here and engage. At the end of the day, they would love to see results. And myself, I would love to see results. What's the assurance? Any assurance?
I think that the assurance will come from the recommendations from the summit. We are taking this very seriously. We are going to present these inputs at the summit, and we are going to push policymakers to take concrete steps in implementing the decisions that were taken at the summit.
I ask because there are lots of concerns about us having these talk shops and nothing happens.
Exactly. And I can assure you that this is not a talk shop. We are taking this very seriously. All the inputs that were talked about here and other input from other activities are going to be presented at the summit. As I speak to you, there's another program going on with civil society organizations in oil and gas, and we are going to also collate their input into the summit. And so we've had different activities with Ghana Connect. We've done some with City FM. We're going to do features with City FM. We are doing roundtables. We are going to even the regions to engage with citizens, and all those inputs are going to be put together and presented at the summit. And we think that that is what's going to start the engagement at the summit. So it's about what people are saying, what the ordinary citizen is saying, and what the policies to be able to take forward what the citizenry are saying.
Well articulated. Thank you.
I am Che Kojo Yamwa from Friends of the Nation, the program's manager.
And your impressions about this session we had?
Yeah, this session was very insightful because I realized that in the room we had close to 100% of the participants participating in such a forum for the first time. And this is very, very useful. Also, most of them gave very good comments, and most of these comments produce some sort of information as to how we can manage our oil and gas revenue effectively. I like the comments that were made in terms of how could we ensure that future generations also have some sense of equity, some sense of share in this whole discussion. I think that participants thought that the current percentage that Ghana is getting from the revenue was quite low, and then there is urgent need for it to go up. There were key comments as to why we are not producing and refining the oil that we are gaining locally, and I think that is also a key point to note.
What are the answers to those?
Yes, most of these answers, the policymakers need to provide answers, especially because it's a policy direction to sell the oil and then to go and buy some from elsewhere, and these things must be addressed by the decision makers in this regard. We, of course, as civil society organization, will raise the issues, raise the voices of the people, and also send our comment in terms of policy discussion papers, in terms of petition, in terms of engagement with the policy makers. But the answers, actual answers and actual actions must come from their end. So these are the key points that we think that should be looked at. But I think that such sessions are very useful. One, it provides a platform for information sharing. Two, the citizens, and then it also goes beyond just the policymakers and the other active people to people really on the field, that is the grassroots. And these are quite key, because if we would succeed in properly managing our oil and gas resources, we will need all ideas, and such sessions are very useful. What I will add is that beyond this, there should be active engagement with policymakers. There should be more of such sessions elsewhere across board, and then we should be able to gather all these inputs and engage collectively with it, one as media, civil society, and others, so that we know that collectively we would be able to achieve something meaningful from such engagement.
But as a civil society person, do you think we have really managed the resource very well? And the concerns that we send them away, bring them back, our percentage 18, not really something that we should be having?
Yes, I would say that we have performed fairly well. Fairly well means it's below average. That means that there's a lot to do to move beyond average and to move up on the scale. Of course, you would understand that oil and gas was quite new in commercial quantities for Ghana, so the capacity and other things were not available. But I would also say that Ghana should have been well placed, learning from bad examples from other countries, and then the good examples we could marry it. I think that we have done considerably well, considering 2011 since we started receiving revenue to date. But in my own opinion, we could have done better. So the point is that all these concerns that are coming up are very useful. So how can we put them together and ensure that the policy direction, the implementation, and decision making can be very good? One of the areas we could do this, of course, we've discussed about raising the percentage that we are getting. But the little that we are getting, you can note that we are spreading wide and thin across several sectors. And even within the sectors are very broad. Road and other infrastructure is very broad. Agriculture modernization is very broad. Capacity building is very broad. Loan amortization is very broad. So we need to scale down to areas that we can achieve total results in a few years, so that we can all point to this project or that project as project completely funded by oil, and we can see the impact. Also, there is need for value for money analysis and also impact assessment, so that we see the areas that we are putting money to. What have been the actual impact? Do we need to continue to put monies in those areas, or we need to change and put it elsewhere? These are key things that we need to consider as a nation. Without these, we would look back in the future and then maybe regret for some of the decisions that have been taken.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So that's it. Yasa baby medamu nyina mo ase emsa no papa ni yi masotre se ene pese mu komo ayi bedi nyina begina oil and gas. If we say the good, the bad and the ugly, and you know ana ibedi san komo no, and a quick reminders. Nyame adom echna Airtel Adom praise bibia edi adanse se yaye krado ani yaye ready se ye di bro e Perez Dome jolo no num pepepe na edi tata so a edi sahezika waka ene Ghana jomtofo akukudam enso ba anita free koda alabaster box ene wona kaka winana e ba beboa ayeyi ni osori ejumedie sonko a edi bro afibia da na Airtel Adom praise eno achi so no e ma refise e November 21 the ruling National Democratic Congress and so one primaries, parliamentary primaries no sabato no baso ewo empesa ahodorjina. As we speak now, not yet confirmed from the headquarters, which is national executives no in himself Northton anafe wager ebinumerity issues about maybe a cost of the injunction at so, but the name's a party no officially are aware of this. But the live coverage, Ebebro happenings whilst one about to elect their parliamentary candidates, Echna or Adom TV. So stay tuned and watch out. Yebama Irache Kwajo Eboa Ayamua, rather Kwaba, ono ye programs manager, Emma Friends of the Nation, if that's correct.
Yeah, that's correct.
Good morning, BBI Kama.
BBI Kama.
Yeah, then you may say pass for the kinds of ones. Now, for Nimyam for your marking, and also our hand say this time, not as a politician, but also to help say oil and gas no in India no bet me boy but the politics of course
Mpocho mempede create impression that me oil and gas
authority
at all me oil and gas but of course on finance introduce me
only interest
no so I'm here in my capacity as a politician in parliament or oversight okay finance committee not sleeping anyway
you're not sleeping.
I'm not sleeping
but the president says you are sleeping.
Political and a finance committee.
Okay. Quick one. When you do constituency nechi.
Oh my. And done me feel simple by. Okay. I spend more time in that. We are in a campaign mode. Anna.
You are saying much biem. More. Mechanism NGO no. Money so ade hu pote pa ene de we ye ba nioma efa oil and gas ho pote pa bugina bi ene de we
yo ye NGO no ye ni so ade hu no efa ne se eye natural resources oil and gas ka ho no kwan be ne be fa so a ye be ma ye nyina ya dwenkyere participation and inclusive decision making na ya dwenkyere ni nyina ka ho ni yetimi ama the governance of it amemu of oil no ho atumpon if you say sebe nyansa ohani ba ko fotrim ana resources no so no ye nyina ye dia Ghana constitution ka say ye dia held in trust for us on our behalf into on our behalf nature say obi ena ehwe so aman
but ye nyina
ye dia na e wo say ye nyina yetimi enya so mfa so papa nti sa na ni so di hu no ete efa oil and gas ho
I see say ene de obeka say ye gina ma ye ho adwumai hwe oil and gas na mo so mo di akira mo bo Ghana for dodo na ye ni nhye dan ko ho no nyoma bensa na ebobo free mo ba in terms of infrastructure in terms of nyoma bia ekoso a enkoyie say ye ka Ghana sika semi na akra de kase ani a ehefa na ye oil and gas ebitimi de agina ana de agina ana de bekwa akogina e de nsunsuanso ensem fatal so no ya hwe ni ye nso a ebitimi de abro man Ghana
yo mame sha ase na menka se mimi gidie mu no me gidi se oil and gas nhira na nya nome na mmom ekwan a obefa so a obeye no na obema hu nhira no ana so obehu nome no mama bebre ntimi hwe oil and gas so ye yete ho nsensem na mimi wogidi se Ghana si to na mon pa ebenya ne ma bebre afiri mu efiri se oil and gas no eye sika unya wo oil and gas mu no wo ka se odi dijuma eye a dachi bi no betimi don sa asiobo as a nation no aka say sikai de ye yetimi anya homo bebre every say oil and gas no tu a ebesa fan woni jasama no engo hoda esa bruni be say e finite wo ho no renewable resource nti ebesa nti e wo se sika ne ba no na wo ye nhihye bia dachi bia esa umfa wamamu no ensay anasa economy no and break it down and our face to oil no e was say baby bi so ho a wo bo wani ko ho baby to say agriculture any ade eni kwa say wo jai ho no na okope oil no kwa nam say moska e was say wo hwe ho no nso ye nyina say eni kwa say odun kosu nyina gu basket kenten ba kumo nti ho no ye de ehia pa na mom no ya na akwa say oil no sika firi mu baninti ni ade adwi nyina kosi so afi oil no kosa na afi baby foforo na wosenke ye boa mani gira ne na so no na ho no ato chema tinu no oil mu ne fe no the Dutch disease I maybe esi ya fa ho nsuade enti ho no ehia pa na se de sitie ne se wunya bibi ti se fa wenem sika de mane attention e wo so no ntinu ya na sebi adwin bebre efiri mu ba yemfa ne se wo yi nipa wo ho na sika bi yemfa ne se wo di loto ebe to mu a sika ne ba ya bonse na wan hwe ye sika ne be sa na hunhunu sa na oil de no ete se nyame ncha de ye hwe Ghana oil me sika pa se kran fa ne se wo yi koko firi ho a nka oil na wo ho nanso sika na eba no o se ye nhihye ya ye betumi di adi dwuma ebe boa yen ya yete ha yi generation anyone so obeba ya de ehia pa wontimi anye sa ne ma mienu a obo nse obehwie no na dachi bi no odi nse se obo aka se me hu yanka enti yen hyehyɛ ya ye asenji woni nyina ne se ye bo hu de ro emfa so ai eba ne ye ka bi hu asem ebi ni saying yenye sika pa yemfa ne say from 2010 e sha see 2 year ebesi sa 2015 yenye kra yenya $3 billion as Ghana if we oil mu
I think it's 4 billion. 4 billion.
Say yemfa ne say
so far.
Okay, and say 4 billion impo. Good. Now me refer to documents but the issue ni say
Minister of Finance latest in the 2016 budget. Also oil revenue so far is $4 billion.
Any say e do so kra chen yensusu ye no. Na ye hwen so a o hwe petroleum commission so dey aba say at least dey be 5,000 etimi anya adwuma enam oil yi ho. Na adwuma nketenkete ankwankwa adwuma local ones wo Ghana so about 600 and so etimi aba out because of the oil and gas ade. Na chese mfaso eba. Enti sa mfaso ya eba yi ni sika 4 billion ya yebodin no. I will say yetimi edi djuma ebeboa as a nation. Na etumi amma dachi bia no yetimi agina ho aka say yenya oil sika yetimi de aye way eno eyade hia pa.
I see, but when you meet a lot of resistance, especially from Abambi also, because mo de mo person mo de atosi no mo hye ne ma de achia no mo tene no na mo sa ma nipa dodo na hu mfasode titiri osika afema oman no yenya mo hwehwea na mo kenkan na mo tietie na mo hwede ekoso na ye di kan ye nkrata ho kra ho hyehyeye efa sa oil and gas yi eni anamontu a Ghana for ye to fa oil and gas yi no ususu se sika yenya no yenya ho mfasode e de nyoma se fata
meka se yetumi de aye niema na emom no yebetumi aye echen de nkaya ye efri se ohwe eye petroleum revenue management act mra efa ekwan befa so be isu Ghana sika ho a efa fa nwo yi ho a ema minister kwan ema oye nhihye prioritize eye nsusue bi efa baby bia obetumi di sika no akwakoshe from 2011 ba na ewo baby be enan amortization of loan sebosia boni ade de be se biwura oyi ni mu ni ho hyehye ho your agricultural modernizations kriaye ni afrejuma ekwan ye oyi sika ni bi ebeko your capacity building say de be ya ye ankasa Ghana fo no ye benya nimdie ene ade ni institutions no so no omo betumi enya ahoden e de aboa oyi no afenso road and other infrastructure now we baby enan ya still no nimu no edo because okay so for road and other infrastructure baby wo ho asika no eko okay so for agricultural modernization baby wo ho asika yi eko na ebi ni say sika no o spread ni bebre a untimi nya impact e wo se unya ebi ni say yamfa ne say wo 1000 Ghana cedi na wo cha mani pa be 50 wo be cha amomo nanso du obi abenya no entimi enye impuntu kesibia ona brabo but ka fa nipa ba ko na de ma no a enke be hu change good sa na yen hyehye no akwakoya sika no broni be fa ne say spread no wide and a thing good ana baby wo ho nso a sika na ekwohye na ho no nso bi sika fi baby foforo ebe ka ho entimi nka poten say oyi sika no ana ya mi eduru sei anasa mi eduru sei ebi ne sen ebu akwan bi wo ho a sika bi fi baby na eba na de oyi sika na kakra akoso so good intino emane ehun ensam kanai bibia wo ho na nka bi efa ne say saa kwan ba ko we de oyi sika nyina ebe hye wo afi mu ne yahwe ye wie bia betimi de nsa akye say aha saa kwan we no oyi sika enti eno boa ema wo tracke anase undu ani di akire na wahwe ho hyehye no ho mfaso na uhuni ye
assistance na so so ho kakasha entimi enye
good impanfo mpo say odwunso gu fa ko a ene twahuru
I see
enti sana awo say nka ye oyo yi
my members about so but yanko gina mra she bedwam na member of parliament omo no mo shemra I'm sure say eye there oil and gas ho mra di entimi monsa parliament ho da na o my entity kakra we say and I'm ni so mo na ye dia and no money there so much Bravo.
Why?
Yes, this is an NGO we are which is good. We are sure some may meet a lot of resistance, even within more parliament, because seeking for information in Ghana, no, in Tokapi, into your okay, Omo don't put time and say, Ampa oil and gas, never they most use also be yam mine, for so dear Cassia, and no any tittle, and no more de Rusi. Now, what is the picture there?
Well, Ozikan, Mambo Nabado, Onyene NGO, Sunday, Ebeka de Rutu Wache, Aye Jumaza Bois, Oman Ghana, Onyazo defo, Bembra Ken, Binum Bohun Ban, Binum Bohun Papa, and see, you won't hear there, so build to the man among Yabashan Kran. Na Yama, Nimpanus Wing there, Oman ta nature, no more. Nhwehwase wo ho nti wobokodo na waye won adwuma na ama yen fango sika no etum aba na yeza adwuma wo no kwado wo mbrehye begom no bakaya omampanyin kufo na bredo na yenya dem oil discovery although ebinum ka do ye andwongo and frito but eventually no yehu do oil. The first thing, and menyini yadwin, was the yebutanamona, the so-called Dutch disease na nkofu to oil we fi won kufo aza megis de Ghana fu nyinara se yereda oil de ye bompe ye de sre odafu ni hira onini adwin pa o mampanyin kufo onyan the immediately oil no be no yemfa embra yemfa nyedwuma. Of course, young Professor Mills are winning baby call. Obebo to the legislative framework na o mampayin kufo wahyehyɛ one day no so push it through wa parliament. Inti them yen Petroleum Revenue Act na oye Act 815 no. Parliament in 2011 was the member no bay. And the member no o kyerɛ nzama ruwa oye there. Yazi your friend then Yan Fangus can Yazi. To the extent there was setting up Oye Watchdog Committee B, okay, by section 51 of the Act. No. Ye were piak Oye Ikua Wabashe Watu the Public Interest and Accountability Committee. Public Interest and Accountability Committee. The Public Interest and Accountability Committee, where you many there? Wabe and Pensem. And they have access to information. What about the oil sikano? Ana aben rehwedu ye. Ekwanya wo fodo na se aben poka da waka dem project here. We dwuma in the wobako akwhwe the project oyampa na. Two, wobahwe value for money. Na we are we brief minister. What the war report was about parliament. Last year, one reporter wo ye no. Wo me ye share wo kofodua. Aye won person me kai de ye kan wasam kakra nzama nkoyi enda oyam doing there manfa me report na ba mennuane zi na mehwe ehwe membership of the Public Interest and Accountability Committee na there were representation from Ghana Academy of Art and Science. There were representation from civil society and community-based organization. Ghana Bar Association were representation. Ghana Extractive Industries Institute of Chartered Accountants, AGI, Association of Ghana Industries, Federation of Muslim Councils and Ahmadiyya Missions, Association of Queen Mothers, National House of Chiefs, Ghana Journalists Association, Christian groups in our new trade union. So this is very comprehensive. There or cut across there. Obi biara journalists, central for more representation. Inti issue one report now. Or you're very independent. No mercy, no cover up. Za otenu ena oye. Now, your stabilization fund. Your heritage fund. Heritage in yesterday. Ono yanendama. Sikano yezikoguho. Ya pio amwa. Ma anwoche tibiana yemfa yensanka. Ochinebi ebiana ozali. Ansana yeziensaka. Intina beka ya somewhere last year na abeni sikasam nkoye ema yen papa esedun katia de oh na ye wo sikada ho na yeso ye wa hochimi obeya yen kafa the misika na yen fan yedwuma although logically za yen papa esedun katia no rekan nanche on Tombra logically, but to the extent that yes, the miskana toward the oil for future use, into yeah abusing not on no kwanda, okay, and again in Brandon no ose yan them, into since it was allocation for in the what's look teach him is the support to budget. Is the easy to stabilization fund, the stabilization fund no. Sikebia isha critical areas wo economy. Okay, no, yenhwana yemfa nsha nature no or your proper investment be in area. Nti ebeka ya nkofo dodo na was dey bi. Say yema hu konde yemfa yensam buboma. Nature there is no investment for the future. No matter how logical that suggestion may be. And I agree with that school of thought there. We shouldn't use all our area revenue. At least you invest be for the future so that you know how to manage ourselves. Now, as a crowd, me just there on ye abendo. Now on ye Ghana funi na so do. On ye IMF managing director. Now some okay in May, April this year. So ebekaya tama ye call IMF. They ye kwa bon bosia. One boy hen. Na ye ma yen economy onko ye woman and almost $1 billion. Watch him $100 million plus. Now over a period, we monitor what activities in is one brother was up to almost $1 billion. IMF managing director, or yeah, Madam Christiane Lagarde, oka assembly graphic in yakukudu reporting. Asamo okay, nini na anye de. Osande ya hwe yen fangu sika no duye yinti na ya sana aba wonchen omayen yen for politics wonchen. We are speaking objectively as Ghanaians.
Okay, enyina answer member also would you agree say my many statement na okan and say yeah Ghana per momo hwehwe mu amaye ne more observations they say so far the management of Ghana the oil and gas fund you know and sheda nyadia abuwasa and I say anko yisa and I below the average.
Quote my mini year. So that to me a bit of question. Oh, say yeah boy
quotation yeah good.
O mine you judge awasam be yet. My mini say onam there yan hwe oil sika no duye. O say yenya sika no oil sika you to oil we under in the impression there sika no oil forever. Your problem ya solve. No nam da yan hwadu ye nti na ya san akwa hochire.
Is that the impression na mo call around that? Na mo share there na mo your research no. Munya about the management of your oil and gas fund na.
Eh no crepa impression no. Wo hu say be dey
timu ye de.
Ye timu ye de.
Say e wo ho saa.
E wo ho saa. Sabre kwa ye ka say impo no e da so wo ho. If you so hwe say the ye see you su sika na no hu say I was say ye hwe hu ye. Ya ho ye hu ya ne ye kosire si kona dachi bia no ye ho be kire yen won hu say afi 2014 besi 2015 oyi price yi call from kakra yi hwe ahonchira yakom but so oye oil and gas management unim say oil ebo no enjina faako enti se koso na bonifa so nya de fe na win for na awoso odi si ho in such a way say ekofom a ubetimi ho ato na high economy no I see ya re hyem any da so no any expectation no e wanim saa sisika no kwa na be kontu hwempo a this year estimate ye susu si ebenya no hwe first half na timi say wo form bebre kwa enti no trimuda no e da so ho enu nti ne hwe spending na ye spending on kitin ko areas bi a wan hwe a sebi entumi emoyen nti ho no ehia se ye sa ehweni ye ya nhweni ye a dachi bia no sika ne besa nanso ni entumi enya bibi enfanchre sabre ankasa ye kase ye busa se bibi poti ben ene enya fi oyi
no ka beba no
ye be kase oh okay ama adwuma ama
5,000
nipa 5,000 enya adwuma nipa 5,000 enya adwuma yi omusi takra de bebia mi free bo omusi kase makoso nanso enam sa ni ntinu goods and services so cost dan high ni ade ama dipa dodo obro 5,000 e kwa huhiam wo nti ebu abinimu no
na de bi so kwa huhiam
me ka me yonku bia no ye adwuma oil and gas okọ high dan one can't chief you and say oil and gas. Into Ohana, who say oil and gas a car be found on a permit, no so oil jumo oh, found we to one of me was one yard. Or send cow catch them. Let me who and Shayam and no
if the boy
because who you see can sa or say receive one.
The Hunsu shall only be a
Hunsun Sonu Ebino.
Oh my, just to chip in. Takrade, you know, now my transport business into Takrade music kita over. And you mean there in Kano, Takrade na rent wo fumpa. And the Obibiaro water crade. Obakach or the oil, the semi bebe, and Crawford 2-1 rent boom. Okay? Equal Takrada into me zero restaurant. O mine in Kran. Go to my restaurant is Bana Bekekezi. I will call Takradi restaurant. Na compare. I will for receipt in you. Then say submitted the aya nature was simple. And now the area will be water crade. Me jizi there you can really compare.
So about consider with this pressure idea about Takradi.
Of course, the Takradi with you.
The Western region.
That enclave, it starts if he Shama, Ediko, Epa, Takwa Eko, Takwa Apawa, Chede that enclave. Takradi hotels, no boys, almost just Sanuba years in Anchan and Kana, on in Apa restaurant into me, Eko restaurant pie, KTT, what Takradi. I will for receipt my company on several occasions. In Takradi restaurant, no boy attention and can.
Okay, so
rent, what intino side effect in anticipation, oh, Sikaba. Meanwhile, Ejuma some water Takradi chrome, Ankasa so akofo.
Oh,
yes, of course. Those days in commercial activities are or water Takradino,
railways,
akofo. Meanwhile, the cost of living is very high. In because of what's the oil. Since at the Bosha in Zima area one on them gas project no ni Atwabo port a project development in alcohol. Intino one hour in Zima area one should also expect there cost of living no or better than or all cost no all cost because of oil related activities, oil and gas related
then
activities.
Becomes advantageous to the people of
one cost of living is better than cost because they will be affected.
That's
our second
what I said suppose that I'm Magana for ne abayum paying for because the more if you na muche it's a single room can 50 cities a month and e be 150 and 100 cities a month. Now a dear insurance so papa ana oil and gas no ede bre sa mia na esan se nipa bi adwene yom se fango ntimu sika ne de je fiero yi kan akrache wa nya de se obo me uyi ma fitira ye ye hwehwe ni uhwe corresponding development da ba sa mia ona esi ni pepepe
ensie ni se de sitie ne se nipa dodo na wo mo ho ekire wo mo na de nti ama hotels ne kra no bo aye de ma me fan so ne se uko hotel ni bia na hotel ni nyina no oyefo no aje omtimi je ne 5 years obu oji skana no da kosi hotel foforo enti no dia ka ne kakra bi wo hu de be pachi. All these things are economic and social impact bia eba na yesha oyasi ye kan ho asem be prese yenya abotre ne emfa de friend no economic baseline no ne de compare wo hu de be pachi na amaso because oil mu no ye environmental and social impact assessment but social aspects na ya na low. Sabre no I was say ye yen hihye ye be ye bibi e friend social mitigation ne sika ibi no ye de akohihye saa area yi mu baby bi ne sen eye me de pastor kan aferidwuma ho asem o he oyi hihye yi a for enfie bebre I sha say two oyi na sika ne ba kokora nko boa aferifo se sika yi e boa na akohia aferifo yenso ye oyi eye offshore e wo pono so meme no yenko aferifo e wo ho tembia na already na aferidwuma no niema bebre nti ama aferidwuma na abafom ana oyi no so abanya additional stress o aferidwuma so
stress
yes ebi ni say se wutu fa ngo na se de sitie ni nti ntimi makwa me anya aferidwuma wo ho na nyame ncha de Ghana so nyame ahira se efa nkramantem ho nyina aposu nyina ekọ framantem nyina no yenya certain discoveries e wo ho a enche bia no ye be sha CCA 2 they say ye Western region po Jubilee wo ho ana say 10 project nso ba ehu nyina ye ma afarifo enko enti kakra be ka bo mu no na afarifo no ye pam wo no pindu ye pam wo mo epono nso wo ho no enye baabi ananam wo ya na nkofu bebrenim baabi wo ho te say desert opono so enye baabi ananam wo enam no wo baabi kakra bi stretch wo mpo na no eko baabi a exclusive zone ehon kwa ananami ewo enti sasa areas yi nso eye active zones oil ndwumadie ne kwa na edin sembebre eba na yehwe eye piak ye kan ye omo report 2014 ya omo hwe baby edi ko ye utimi se still no hwemu a afaridwuma kra per se no oil scan shedan ko ho but ebi ko see defense e won po ano eno ye si o abu afaridwuma but o hwe directly a en shedan mo ai tika dodo na ekọ agriculture na ko subsidy fertilizer subsidy ema akuafo ana dam ayesie ni adeade ana yesie dis kai bi koye fisheries college ewo anomabo nti wo hwa nhihye na ye hihye enkoye if you so far for ejuma na over 10% of Ghanaians na enya benefit of ejuma imo into far po saying 2.5 million. I see, but 2.5 million so enyi ni packet wa
ipa dodo na person omode omadwe nkyere ba na mamen kenkan ba ko mienu bi wa nim say takwade for no mo twa share mine what the man and the MP says is very true. I live in Takrade and it's just too much. Besides, most of the guys in the oil industry are foreigners. Takrade now is a hell to live. Frank Anadiwe Ede Abba and a lot of it. So what we'll do is yedi en komo ya no now so ebere kuma na aka no also for adwen chebe oil and gas is so a edeba one case understanding maybe a Ghana yedi ni sika say yedi hwe no uti en komo so a ekoso wa 0302211701 up to 4 0302211701 up to 4 ira mo yento komo
yo na ma memra so se baby bi ebetimi di sika na kono eye se eku a ebehwe ama oyi dwumadi na cost regulatory agency no o se ye hye omoden for instance they see yeken se obi wo EPA ana se owo eku fufuro bi ana petroleum commission o person ko baby eto fango ya any helicopter de beko se oyi ko ya bi na ma obi nto ka se enemi ntimi mfa ma wa untimi ko honko hwe ne niema mu ni nyina ye nhihye ya wo se ye hwe eye piakefo a ye kan hu asemi omho a kire omo pa eduruma bi na yen NGO fo ni eboa wo mo in terms of report on be ni ade efi se sika ne resources eso omo de ye adwuma na bi ni ho na anu ya na sika kakra ba omo mpo metimi afa nipa kakra enti se atikuo no ne ya mfa support ohia mekuo na anya adwuma ehun sem bebre petroleum commission omo so problems resources ne akande mbe hia mbe de be yi adwuma yi no eni ho sa enti e wo se etimi ye nhihye me in fact kamenko amadwene a kameka se eni kwan se ma ho kwan ne fa oil sika ne de ko support football ebi obi ni menya adwene so me ma adwene no efri se ye woni me bi ebetimi de esi akwan mu ebenya ho mfaso no mo ama na benefit ye nyina sabre ameka se no still yenye ai se oil sika ne de nsaboma ese de akoha de nsaboma ese de akoha na nhwemu bi wo kwampo na ya na ani enyan se aka se de sika ne de akoha obekọ ho no so ne sika ne nyanduru ho ne sinsen fra ne sika ne ko efri ya hanso nduru ho
na dia na mo ye o ma hwege
good question the piak for one report you share okofodia issue are always about one resources sika wobotum was aye won edum was raised them robert say one recommendations and so yebotum abenbotum wezido na wama bibiara akodo totin also became an issue me just that after workshop no minority a press conference ya kase tie aben wo ekwanya yensi kasam wo fangodo ako but omain there's a little problem issue constitution okay it be a question bripino nzama chia na nkofur bi say na parliament crabas na maye by the constitution article 103 3 also committees of parliament shall be charged with such functions including the investigation and inquiry into the activities and administration of ministers, departments, as Parliament may determine. And such investigation and inquiries may extend to proposals for legislation. Basically, what this provision is saying in the Parliament, there were oversight responsibility. Yes, I had a political police officer. Shusho minister, ibazin or ya onye niye. Abay ibazin, but on my name no your yenyim. In one breath, there is an expectation, and in the constitution, an obligation on a member of parliament. But the partisan nature of our legislature, the way I send the major be minister be EPN for the interest of Ghana for one partisan consideration. ABI you are in minority. Erekana aka ekisiden. So obodu baby nature there as if there you have a personal interest in on penasam in I attack. Meanwhile, it is not the case. Two, when you even want to cooperate on issues.
What Martin saying? Hello, what you saying?
Adom.
Get you what a breath here, one content mine.
Your bottom because I'm free, secondary.
Okay, what?
More Bacano, Sobisia. So more can I know, this is a secondary. And the dam is Buddha Costa Papa. Now, Bosman, now 150. That's a 15 Ghana cities. That's 158,000. To see the problem there 2 weeks ago, all the 600, that's 60 Ghana 600. And you don't need order and order two. This is your name, maybe I.
Okay.
I just obey one fire. Maybe I am one
all right. That's it. From 15 cities to 60 cities.
Yes.
Nana, good morning. Upon to saying. Boko, Pacheco.
Okay, that's so. The mention said I would to come. A very good idea. It's a best share and pay for the Mohana one, or the in terms of Angola and Corona. Now, we are from one fire. It's a best share of mine or what the I should be near. Remember, no from the Modi chocolate, although you're going to be in Cordoba or mine. Very good. So, tomorrow, I did the Asun Channel Cabanoni or mine.
Okay. Yeah, that's CP. Good morning, Kwesi. Upon to say. Both yet you.
In fact, contribute the Amoya meeting on that my child. In fact, I want to papa, easy. Oh, you're not actually, all you're not on. And I'm only who you in fact, my child.
Okay. Yeah, that's CP. Yeah, wrap up. Yeah, far in your baby answer. Good morning, I promise to say. Unfortunately, I'm saying, I know. And I must say, intimate for call BM. Wrap up on I was making a point. Into Parliament. Say, a corporate, be a minority, and you win your no majority. More ye, Jumano sooner, as an ye sooner, and Shani was the dentin a minority won't raise the issues. Or mine in that yet. Me pedama catch a gun of winning there. They should exercise a choice. Whether what parliamentarians, what you wejuma in a way executive interfere. Na Ghana constitution much the yen fam one. Or ye juma yen ya Ghana for one. Okay.
So Ghana for krona so what pede adino kunkon wasa wonka because mine is becoming so clear there. In one breath, Ghana for accountability. In another breath, in Yansa, I had a crusade. Kakobinasam and all that. But as an sayer, in Obiaka, the Mukuimpo or Dentin and one Kasa.
All right. Friends of the Nation. We're from Axim. I believe Friends of the Nation, and I hope this program will continue to elevate the poor people from this current situation. Also, Axim. It's all some up narration, but I'm Ghana for Yabakoso, I'm a near Dimochi. If say in your line of operation. You know, catch a Ghana. Managers of oil and gas.
Achianso emuye. Na achiano shebe biro I said edi si akwem. Ebi ni say na o say ye gina ho. near head ye we've got a sika oil no na ye he insusanso papa ben na efi mu aba bone ben na ewu mu sikatua no ehemfa na anko yi ne ye hya ase esesa na ya anye ne saade a edu insusanso bone bebre ne beba me ka kura man ka the environmental aspect of this whole oil because now no ye wo ho na te Gulf of Mexico oil ehwe gu ye enti Ghana no san hihye nyina wo se ye di tu akwan mu said ye be ya ye betimi abo nipa ho ban life first ya bo environment no ho ban na sika no nso a eba no nso no ye use ni in such a way say ye nyina ebenya ho mfaso e ka me nko akade me ka ne say baby a ye di sika ne kokọ ayaye no tra kitinkiti no ye njai na emo ayen na ye mpes project bi a ye nyina ebedi aden say okay ye de kọ ha e bia afi mu ye wiewei ye firi ho a yakọ ha ene enu no ye nyina ebetimi de ani adi echi so o sika e ba ye ne de kọ ha ye de kọ ha no so
nkuntabuo no sumu ada ho
nkuntabuo no sumu ada ho
Programs manager, Friends of the Nation, that's it. Oh, but no, you know, this weekend conclude. They won't conclude.
Oh, on this, some must be wrap up. Wrap up. Closing remarks.
Our closing remarks.
Yeah. Closing remarks. The time record. Okay, you have. Major there. I been a copy of PIAC reports. Okay. I been Boshe Sinta Owum. No, we would then yet there. PIAC report on your opposition for no way. But on your all the stakeholders in this country, various groups on your political. Until if one would one report about what can they look, one share all your sikano to year. It's not about opposition. Two, IMF paying za okay there. Young trade is kasam do ye, but on them the minti yako a IMF back your couple busa or abe insu bibi film. Na abe with the in fee the sleeping opposition MPs, but of the IMF war and about to go there. In fact, all your sika $4 billion. No, man should be on into the mobile boy and bossa. Of the IMF on your MPP sleeping MPs. IMF. If we say
okay, get yourself ready for Donata. Get yourself ready for Donata. Anama, me namu inama say, Mr. Monkai, honorable Comnaminta Kando. Na monkono moa. So na happy birthday, Koma Jomensa Sapo. Jim, just a minute, quickly, just a minute. Just a minute, you go bring him here.
O man nyabuta.
Debi pacho kasa.
O man him dem kasa abutere. Politics. Obiara April. Nusu we base on man ni. Mema menua penyin Donata. Onye menua penyin Ambrose Entwa. Okay. Me hye won nkran mama won ti nkwan in advance. Won mu biara wo beyi na kira no oye simpenyin ba. What I want us to do is to base our campaign on issues. It can end the papers now. Okay. Then you don't have to complain about dirty politics. Thank you. Thank you. I wish there. Thank you. It will not continue.
Thank you.
So after Saturday, whoever emerges, we are ready to work together, compete, and then see who becomes the
programs manager, Friends of the Nation, and ACP. Sasna. For come Adoma live coverage, NDC parliamentary elections in Edinburgh. And don't forget, Ezekiel Walker, Echina, Perez Dome, Joelu, Ethel, Adom Praise. Meko.